Hi Creatives. I've taped off a sheet of 300 GSM watercolor paper, and I'm just starting with a little bit of charcoal. It's a Coates Willow charcoal, and they're the thinner sticks. They break easily, something to keep in mind. Just going over it with a bit of water now, just giving it some, just a base layer, something to start with. And then I'm going to go in with an off-white. I'm trying to avoid the black marks because I don't want this to turn out all gray. I want to work with black and white, probably more off-white. You can see this is sort of a darker, warm gray that I'm putting in now, but I don't want it to get all mushed together and wind up being just all gray. I'm always drawn to black and white. I really like the effect of neutrals. And this is going to wind up on 5x7 cards, but I didn't take particular attention to detail measuring this off, so I just taped off with paint tape. I don't have any artist tape right now. A 9x12 sheet of, as I said, watercolor paper. So I'm just, filling in the little spaces, again, staying away from the black marks so I don't just wind up mushing that all up. But this is just, a very basic layer before I go in with anything else. Everything I use is pretty much off of Amazon and off of Dessert, and I will link that below. Dessert, if you're in Quebec or Ontario, I don't think they deliver to the US, but you can obviously find these products or similar products elsewhere. So making some larger, bolder circles with black, something to stand out a little bit more. I don't want any layer to be the last visible layer, so I am going to cover this up or go over this somewhat. And my paint is a little bit thin here. The interesting thing about doing the voiceover is I can tell you what happens down the road. So this is a little bit thin. You can see I'm going over it again, drying it, going in with a China marker now in black, just adding some more bolder marks because they're on top. The charcoal is now a few layers underneath. And I'm using a matte medium, Liquitex matte medium. You can tell it's been used a lot with white. And I'm just going to sort of put in another layer, a translucent layer of white. Again, this isn't pure white. It's a somewhat off-white. A lot of my colors are pre-mixed. So I've just used titanium white with a little bit of black, sometimes a little bit of yellow ochre to give it a warmer shade. These are some collages I made using tissue paper, just regular tissue paper from the dollar store. It's not wet strength tissue paper or anything particular. And again, gluing it down with the matte medium. I like to add in some more definite marks or definite print ideas as opposed to something that's a little more random. Always alternating perhaps between something that is more patterned, more bold, and something that is a little more just free form. And I made this just by using some foam from a delivery of some sort, just packaging foam, cutting it out in circles and stamping it on the tissue paper. I actually have quite a lot of collage on tissue paper, and I can show you how I make those in another video. This is a larger set I made with larger circles. So just giving it something a little more definite in the black, and it just adds a little bit of texture as well. I don't really mind if the tissue paper wrinkles. I just find it adds texture. Going back in again with this warm gray, beige color, grayish, is that the new word, grayish? And of course the matte medium. This is not going to work out. This is splashes with the black. I should have tested this before. It is way too thin and it is just not going to have the right effect. You can see in the upper right hand quadrant, it just sort of looks more like something spilt on there. And because it was thin, the dryer also pushed it around a little too much. And I'm going back in with some black marks. Now I'm using just pure Mars Black. It's a Liquitex. Again, I think actually from Dessert. And this, because it's a little thicker, adds texture. So it's going to, I think at the end you'll be able to see there's somewhat ridges there as well. These are cutouts from a pad I picked up at the dollar store. There were different themes. I think I have a dollar store haul video that I'm going to put out. I just don't know in what order they're going to appear yet, but pick these up. As I said, different themes. I got ones that were sort of vintage postcard, vintage travel, and I really like them. They're just sort of die cut. And again, just adding some more interesting texture and visual elements. Again, I don't want them to look like the absolute last layer on top. So you're going to see I'm going to go back in and cover them up a little bit. And again, just using the matte medium. They are a bit thick. There's, I'll say there's sort of a thicker paper, maybe cardstock, even they're thin cardstock, nothing too thick. But with the matte medium, and I do several layers, you build up the layers of matte medium, seal them in, seal the edges. So actually it works quite well. Even on paper, it works quite well. And it's surprising how well the watercolor paper holds up. I'm going in, I'm covering up these awful splashes I did that I didn't like, and I'm just making quite an opaque square here. I'm also covering up, as you can see, the collage pieces a little bit, these cutout collage pieces. Just again, because I don't want any one layer to look like the absolute top layer, covering up that whole disaster here as well. It's the great thing. If you don't like it, just cover it up. And then I'm going to take some off, of course, why not? And just restamp it in another area. Again, I don't like things to look, too last layer opaque. So you can see when a little bit comes off, the collage underneath is showing through. And I'm just going to use the excess to sort of go over here, cover up those black circles a little bit. Again, always with the idea that I don't want anything to stand out as, oh, this is the last layer that was put on. This is what's sitting on top type of thing. And I'm just using a paper towel here and just scratching into that a little bit as well. Sometimes I overwork the paper and it lifts up. I think you can see in that square in the upper right, it's lifting up a little bit. It doesn't matter. I will even sand it a little bit. And I'm using a little bit of white here too. I think this is almost a pure white. Just, going over. So again, nothing stands out as being super on top. Yeah, this is the part where I'm just going to sand it down a little bit. Again, surprising how much watercolor paper can put up with. But this is, I think, a 280 grit. It is very fine. It is, if you've ever used a fine emery board for your nails, this is about the grit of this sandpaper. It's very smooth, very, very delicate as well. I'm just going to take the dust off. So it gives it that worn look as well that I really like. I'm going to add some Asemic writing. I think I'm inspired by that vintage travel cutout pad that I got from the dollar store. There's different ways to do Asemic writing. I have developed a method that works. In case you don't know, it's something that looks like writing, but you can't really make out words. So again, if you're interested in knowing more about that, just, let me know in the comments. There are different ways of doing this, either, writing it out yourself, pre-made collage with Asemic writing on it. You can even, download Asemic writing papers and stick those on. But if you want to do it yourself, I have sort of practiced and devised a pretty good method. This is Artisto Paint Marker Pen. Sorry again with the, oh, and I wrote it here too as well. Oh, wow, look at that. This is off of Amazon. I bought the white, the black, the silver, and the gold. I don't often buy sets. They usually have a lot of bright colors. And in case you can't tell, I'm not always into bright colors. Although I am leaning back a little bit more towards that in my painting. And I'm going in with the silver, just making some dots, adding some marks for interest, highlighting this circle with the black. And of course, just using the paper so I don't smudge what I've already written. because of course I've made that mistake before. Nothing like, and because I'm stubborn, I'm going to go back and put in some drops again. But I've tested it before. The paint is a little thicker, and I like the effects these ones are having. And again, it just sort of covers up a bit the Asemic writing. So once again, that doesn't look like the last layer sitting on top. I want to cover up this section. This section really does not suit me, and you can see I'm trying different cutouts from this die cut pad. I settled on the bigger vintage postcard looking thing or cutout, I should say. Glued it down with the matte medium, went over with a bit of white just to sort of make it blend in more. Part of it is over on the tape. I don't know how that's going to work. Part of my collage with the dots is also on the tape. And as I was doing this, I was wondering how is that going to work when I take the tape off? We will find out. Stay tuned. But again, you can see I'm going over this, and I wanted to not have the complete postcard as well. I like when these things look just cut out, or like you have a little snapshot section of something. Oh yeah, I'm going to put down some white dots. This is a dropper bottle I got a long time ago. It has a very small metal spout. It's used in crafting as well, sometimes for glues or for paints. And I'm just treating the whole paper as one item, so I'm not really paying attention to, what each section is going to look like. And again, just sanding it lightly so the white dots don't look like the absolute sitting on top last layer. Really obsessed with not the last layer looking like the last layer. So I'm going to take the tape off. Of course, it's going to jam, and I have to use a box cutter a little bit because I've glued collage over my tape as well. I fold the tape over on itself. You can tell I'm like pressing down and folding it over. I find it helps it not rip up the paper or the paint too much. And I'm going to be cutting it anyway. So this is what it looks like cut out and mounted on, I believe this is black construction paper and not a cardstock. I found the cardstock a little too thick. The paintings themselves were quite thick to begin with. So you can see a little bit of the texture of the black circles. That was using the pure Mars black. You can even see some of those charcoal marks way in the back. They're very subtle by now. The collage cutouts also have been a little bit gone over with those glazes. I actually sort of did strive for them not to be all identical. You can see the collage piece I went over, made some uh, flowers on that, also highlighted some of these circles. The splatters look a lot better. They were the effect that I wanted. Again, I've gone over that as well. You can see the Asemic writing there also. And of course, the black circles and the charcoal in the background. I think one of them has no Asemic writing. This has two sets of it. And you can see the dots have been sanded a little bit too, so they look somewhat worn. It's a whole vintage vibe, I think, finally this turned out. The postcard, I sanded the edges, also gave it that worn look. I really, really like the way this looks, and I like the way the edges are cut off. So as I said, sort of that snapshot effect. This says, "I'm not lost, I'm exploring." Seemed like a good theme for what was going on here. Have to be careful. I've used other alphabets in collage, things in Asian alphabet and others. You have to be careful with what was being said. I have a funny story about that also in another one of my videos on making vintage letters for collage. I went over it. This is what I use for varnish. It's a gloss varnish. I like a gloss finish on really small pieces like this. It is archival quality, so prevents it from dust. That's why we varnish. The dust touching it, also the UV lights. UV protects it from UV so it doesn't yellow. This, I don't know if you can see, but I did use a construction paper this time. I wanted something thin. It is white in the middle. All papers are like this compared to cardstock, which will be the color through and through. So it's just something you have to consider. I ran over the edges with a marker just to make sure it was all black. And this is off of Amazon. I think I got this at the last Prime Day. They are 5x7 cards. I got a set with 25 white, 25 brown, just that cardstock brown, or I call it paper bag brown. I like the brown much better, seems to go with these vintage colors. And as I said, I freeformed it. This is not perfectly set to be exactly, with a 1/4 inch border, a 1 inch border. The paintings have 1/4 inch borders. I use this. This is one of my templates, so it cuts out to 4.5 by 6.5 for the 5x7. I can use that for the cardboard or for the painting itself if I put it directly on. And this is my 5x7. You can go over with this and see what sections of, excuse me, what sections work best for you. So this is once they are on the cards, and I sort of like the way this worked out. So this is up close again, and you can see the texture of the black there too. A little bit of texture from the tissue paper also, and that of course is still visible, but it's sort of just, again, not sitting there right on top. Really pleased with how these turned out, actually. With the postcard that I've sanded the edges, I use this technique in another series I did that I'm going to put up about just, practicing and not worrying too much. I call it throwaway art, not really worrying about making a masterpiece. That's the trap a lot of us get stuck in, or at least I had to get out of. I'm trying to make a masterpiece every single time. And again, see, just going around the circles, making some of them stand out, those little stamped circles on the collage, the white dots that have been sanded down a bit also, so they blend. And you can see the texture here. You can see the marks. The first layer of marks also shows through in parts. The splatters worked out much, much better here. And I redid some flowers. I think you can see them now if they catch the light. Did some silver flowers along this strip of collage. Has a nice texture to it. I like when things have texture. I like when they have a history to them, when there's stuff going on in the background that you can see only if you look up close, like those charcoal marks, that first layer that we put down way back. This one also, I just drew in some flowers. I think I've been drawing flowers like that since I've been 3 years old. Probably something comforting in that. You could probably read into that if you wanted to. Again, this one has 2 sets of Asemic writing. I believe the one with the vintage postcard has none. And of course, the envelopes that go with it. Make sure you get the envelopes. Sometimes they sell the cards, but no included envelopes. And also 2-sided tape. I've been using a 2-sided tape, more forgiving than gluing it down, but I do love the glue, just white glue. But it can get a little messy. You have to be careful when gluing that down. And these are cellophane bags. Ordered these separately also off of Amazon. I'll try to put the links, but the last time I tried that, they didn't work. I'm not monetized, or I don't have affiliate links in any way. But just make sure again they're the right size. These are for 5x7. So makes a nice gift, makes something nice you can use yourself. I tuck them in with my artwork to give to a buyer. Again, I'll probably I might put these up on my Etsy, actually, this set. So let me know. Let me know if that interests you. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see as well. Something on Asemic writing, maybe something more in this style. Just the card making process, how to glue things. Like I said, I've been trying with white glue. I've been using 2-sided tape, much more forgiving, but doesn't glue 100% like the white glue. The white glue really glues it down flat. And these are just more up close shots, so you can get an idea of the texture and the layers that are showing through. You can see the Asemic writing looks like something, but it isn't really anything. And of course, the splatters that worked out much better when I tested my paint consistency. Always test first. So I'll put all those links down below, including to my Etsy shop. If I put them up there, let me know what you think. Let me know if that's something that interests you too. Let me know in the comments what else you'd like to see. Don't forget to give this video a like, subscribe. There will be more content coming. And again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Happy creating. Bye.